In the heart of America, a question stirs, echoing through the corridors of history. Is America ready for a revolution? A query not of violence, but of change, of progress, of evolution. Picture a nation standing at the precipice of innovation, where technology champions the cause of the common man and the spirit of competition fuels the fire of human potential. Envision a society where the lines on the field mirror the boundaries we seek to push, where every touchdown, every home run, every slam dunk symbolizes a leap towards a brighter tomorrow. Just as sportsmen rise to the occasion, so too must America. For revolutions aren't born from complacency, but from the courage to challenge, to change, to chase the impossible. In the grand tapestry of time, this moment is but a stitch, yet it holds the potential to shape the fabric of our future. Is America ready for a revolution? Perhaps the better question is, can America afford not to be? This is the dawn of a new era. Welcome to the revolution. It's not just coming, it's here. Welcome to Top Thangs. Today, we dive into the whirlwinds of history as we explore the monumental revolutions that have reshaped nations and the fundamental lessons they hold for contemporary America. From the fiery streets of Paris and the snowy squares of St. Petersburg to the vast fields of China and the tumultuous landscapes of Iran, we trace the echoes of the past in today's quest for justice, equality, and democracy. Join us as we unravel the complex tapestry of revolutionary movements and their enduring impact on the fabric of American society. Throughout history, economic, political, and social forces have combined to catalyze revolutions that fundamentally transform societies. Major revolutions arise when systemic flaws in the status quo become intolerable to large segments of a nation's population, resulting in dramatic calls for change. By examining the causes, events, and outcomes of watershed revolutions from the 18th century through today, we can identify common drivers of revolutionary sentiment. Understanding how and why major revolutions occur can provide insights into addressing present-day discontents in America through thoughtful reform rather than violent upheaval. Today, we will analyze and compare key factors involved in the French, Russian, Chinese, Communist, and Iranian revolutions. It will also examine America's founding as a revolution catalyzed by colonial grievances against the British Crown. Drawing parallels between historical revolutions and current conditions enables us to contextualize sources of contemporary American disillusionment. These include economic inequality and instability, political dysfunction, and social fragmentation. Yet history also suggests pathways for channeling mass frustrations into gradual reforms that improve the system without need for radical revolution. America today faces a choice: to foster civic renewal through compromise and cooperation, or risk deepening internal strife through polarization and competing extremist dogmas. By learning from the past, we can work toward a more perfect union. Comparing major historical revolutions. 4 major revolutions between the 18th and 20th centuries demonstrate both the recurring drivers of revolutionary movements and the diversity of their outcomes. The French, Russian, Chinese, Communist, and Iranian revolutions arose from distinct combinations of economic, political, and social grievances that pushed marginalized populations to revolt against ruling regimes. The success of these revolutions shows that sustained oppression and inequality can eventually ignite dramatic challenges to the status quo power structure. However, the long-term legacy of each revolution also depended on the new governments and ideologies that subsequently filled the power vacuum. The French Revolution began in 1789 amid a deep financial crisis in France, where peasants and urban workers bore the brunt of taxes and food shortages. Enlightenment ideals emphasizing democracy and human rights also energized calls for an end to aristocratic privilege and absolute monarchy. Through events like the storming of the Bastille, the French people toppled King Louis XVI and established a short-lived constitutional monarchy, which gave way to the radical Jacobin government and ultimately Napoleon's empire. The revolution brought about fundamental changes like the Declaration of the Rights of Man, the abolition of feudalism, and the weakening of the Catholic Church's political power. However, lengthy periods of post-revolutionary chaos and infighting limited the emergence of a stable French democracy until 1870. In Russia, widespread dissatisfaction with the monarchy, ongoing military failures and food shortages fueled the 1917 February and October revolutions that dismantled the 300-year Romanov dynasty. Marxist revolutionary Vladimir Lenin led the Bolsheviks in overthrowing the provisional government and establishing the Soviet Union based on communist ideology. The Soviet system challenged capitalism through central economic planning and collective farming, but at the cost of authoritarian government and restricted civil liberties. The USSR ultimately collapsed in 1991, giving rise to a messy transition period in Russia. In 1949, Mao Zedong led the Communist Party to victory after a long guerrilla insurgency against China's nationalist government. Chinese communists sought to improve livelihoods for peasants and workers through socialist economic reforms like agricultural collectivization. However, ineffective central planning during initiatives like the Great Leap Forward contributed to widespread famine in the late 1950s. The Cultural Revolution of 1966 to 1976 also unleashed wide-scale social chaos. Though still communist in name, China's economy today integrates market-based elements alongside state control. More recently, the 1979 Iranian Revolution responded to resentment against the autocratic Shah and Western interference in Iran. Religious and political leader Ayatollah Khomeini capitalized on mass mobilization to establish an Islamic republic governed by Shiite Muslim clerics. While the revolution boosted Iranian independence and religiosity for some citizens, it also instituted religiously regressive policies like compulsory veiling for women. Iran's blend of democracy and theocracy continues to create domestic tensions today. Across these four revolutions, we see recurring sources of mass dissatisfaction, including economic pressures, lack of political representation, human rights abuses, and elitist oppression. Revolutionary gatherings and manifestos proclaimed ideals of equality, dignity, freedom, and independence that proved deeply inspiring to oppressed groups. However, the aftermath of revolution frequently saw infighting among various factions about the new government's goals and policies. Concentration of power with revolutionary leaders often led to new forms of authoritarianism and repression. The messy pathway from revolution to stable government means the long-term impacts on citizens' lives remained ambiguous. America's founding as a revolution. The American Revolution represents a counterpoint to the European and Asian revolutions discussed above, with its relatively rapid transition towards an enduring democratic political system. By understanding the colonists' motivations for seeking independence from Britain, as well as the key events and texts of America's founding period, we can identify why the American Revolution produced more stable representative governance despite initial uncertainties. Several factors drove American colonists' discontent with British control by the mid-18th century. Britain imposed taxes to recoup costs from the French and Indian War, but the colonists had no direct representation in Parliament. Restrictions like the Proclamation of 1763 also limited Western expansion. Colonists increasingly argued these conditions violated basic rights and that consent of the governed was necessary for legitimate rule. Influenced by Enlightenment thinkers, the Founding Fathers articulated arguments for liberty, democracy, and individual rights. The Declaration of Independence, 1776, crystallized grievances against the king and the natural rights ethos of the Revolution. Common Sense, Thomas Paine's widely read treatise, called for American independence by arguing monarchy was inherently unreasonable. The newly independent states formed a loose confederation, but its effectiveness was hampered by weak central government. After the Revolutionary War, the Constitutional Convention sought to create a more cohesive federal system. The U.S. Constitution, 1789, established America's democratic foundations like separation of powers, checks and balances, and protection of individual liberties in the Bill of Rights. George Washington's prudent leadership as the first president reaffirmed rule of law and loyal opposition principles. The American Revolution was unique in establishing a formal representative democracy very early on, contrasting with the power struggles and political chaos after revolutions like France's. Still, this founding vision was imperfect. Full equality and participation were denied to women, slaves, and Native Americans. The Civil War and successive civil rights movements throughout the 19th and 20th centuries enlarged American democracy. Overall, the American Revolution's legacy is remarkable for instituting a durable structure of democratic self-government and constitutionally guaranteed freedoms, despite initial limitations. By analyzing the conditions, events, and outcomes of the American, French, Russian, Chinese, and Iranian revolutions, certain parallels emerge about causes and consequences of revolutionary change. Yet each revolution resulted in widely divergent systems, reflecting the particular economic, political, and cultural contexts. In the next section, we will explore sources of discontent in contemporary American society and consider constructive reforms that could channel frustrations into thoughtful improvement rather than destructive upheaval. Causes of modern American discontent. Having examined major revolutions in history, we can now analyze modern sources of disillusionment and unrest in the United States. While the magnitude differs, current American frustrations echo some causes of major revolutions stemming from economic, political, and social divides. By identifying these pressure points, we can discuss measures to remedy them through gradual reform rather than radical change. Economically, factors like income inequality, inflation, job insecurity, and corporate power have weakened faith in the American dream ethos of equal opportunity. Real wages have stagnated for many workers, even amid increasing productivity and executive pay. Rising costs for healthcare, housing, education, and childcare also strain families. Populist anger simmers toward Wall Street and billionaires during times of financial crisis and recession. The 2017 tax reform was criticized for disproportionately benefiting the wealthy and corporations. These trends have worsened economic anxiety and disaffection with trickle-down capitalism. Politically extreme partisan gridlock in Washington leads many to dismiss Congress as representing lobbyist and partisan interests over ordinary Americans. Gerrymandering of districts entrenches the two main parties and pushes candidates to ideological extremes. Money in politics also raises influence concerns. The Electoral College system has enabled two 21st century presidents to take office without winning the popular vote, sparking doubts about democratic fairness. Government shutdowns, obstructionism, and congressional dysfunction exacerbate disdain for the political system. Socially, America faces demographic and cultural tensions as its population grows more diverse, but key institutions remain dominated by white Americans. Racial justice movements highlight continuing unequal treatment of minorities in policing, jobs, and everyday life. Mass shootings spur calls for action on gun regulations. Gender equality struggles persist around issues like reproductive rights and workplace harassment. Geographic, religious, and political divides separate rural traditionalists from urban progressives and stymie national unity. The internet and polarized cable news deepen filter bubbles. These unresolved social rifts fan populist anger. While the current environment differs vastly from pre-revolutionary societies, America exhibits warning signs like concentrated economic power, political unresponsiveness, social fragmentation, and cultural conflicts. By thoughtfully addressing these through inclusive democratic processes, we can strengthen social contracts and restore faith in governing institutions. Pathways forward without revolution. Given widespread dissatisfaction, how can America undertake meaningful reforms without bloody revolution? Constitutional tools and increased civic participation offer peaceful means for change, and incremental reform may prove more stable than radical overhaul. America's strong democracy enables regular electoral course correction. Public pressure recently prompted term limit pledges from some legislators to reduce insider advantages. Anti-corruption ballot measures like transparency requirements and lobbying restrictions help align government with the people. At local levels, movements for police accountability, affordable housing, and higher minimum wages target specific economic and social justice concerns. Peaceful civil disobedience, in the tradition of Martin Luther King Jr., also seeks change. Critically, cross-partisan cooperation can yield compromise. Urgent problems like immigration, healthcare costs, and climate change are unlikely resolved by one party alone. Denouncing and demonizing fellow citizens obstructs progress. Instead, politicians can listen to diverse constituencies and thoughtfully craft policies acceptable to most. Strengthening civic society also builds social solidarity. Community groups, volunteerism, and service reinforce shared values. Radical ideologies and overnight transformation often breed instability, such as the unrest following many historical revolutions. Gradual reform grounded in existing institutions may prove more lasting. The populism tempting America today mirrors past volatility in Europe. Improving this complex, imperfect democracy requires commitment, vigilance, and good faith efforts across the political spectrum. This examination of revolutions from history to the present day reveals both their major causes and uncertain outcomes. By avoiding hardened extremes and fostering strong civic bonds, Americans can address modern discontents through thoughtful democratic processes. Revolutionary zeal that ruptures social cohesion risks installing new oppressors in place of rectifying injustice. But gradual reforms responsive to 21st century economic, political, and social realities can help rekindle America's revolutionary spirit of liberty and justice for all. The path forward lies not in angry tribalism, but in honest dialogue, mutual understanding, and good faith compromise. By learning history's lessons, we gain wisdom to perfect our union and build a society future generations will judge worthy of the great American experiment. The responsibility is ours. The time to begin is now. Revolutions, both historical and potential, reveal the deep currents of human aspiration for freedom, dignity, and justice. They underscore the importance of addressing systemic flaws to prevent societal fractures. How do historical revolutions inform our understanding of current American discontents? What measures can be taken to transform societal frustrations into positive systemic change? As we stand at the crossroads of history and future, the stories of past revolutions offer us invaluable insights into navigating the challenges of our time. What paths will America choose in addressing its discontents? Can we channel the revolutionary spirit towards constructive reform and civic renewal? Share your thoughts, reflections, and visions for a more perfect union in the comments below. For more explorations into the forces that shape our world, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Together, let's continue the journey towards understanding and action. Thank you for watching Top Thangs. If you want to support our channel so we can continue to keep diving into controversial and thought-provoking content, please consider a monthly membership. Each membership tier has perks, such as priority comment reply, members-only community polls, or premium video requests. Keep an eye out for our Top Thangs merch line coming soon. Aside from helping us keep the lights on, we will use the funds to improve the quality of our content. Did you see that new Sora AI video generation by OpenAI? It looks like a game changer. I can't wait to get my hands on it.